Resilience is the fight against fear. It is literally looking fear in the face and saying, I see you, but I'm going to win every day. I think we do that, maybe not in such a direct manner, but I think we as humans, our spirits, we want to be resilient. It is the essence of who we are and that divine energy. It wants to get up off the ground. It wants to succeed. It wants to be an incredible force of nature in the world, and it wants to live.
Welcome back to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. I am your host, Randy Sparks, and we are grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I always say, you could be anywhere right now and using your time for anything, and you're choosing to be here with us. So thank you very much. We have an amazing guest with us, Carrie Hill. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
So Carrie and I met recently, and a mutual friend connected us, and I'm so grateful that they did. Carrie's got, 18 plus years in I'm going to have to restart this. 18 plus years in PR, but something that's extremely interesting to me is a project that you've started recently.
Yeah.
Where you're helping yourself and others ReFind resilience.
Yes.
And you've started a podcast about that.
I did.
And so that is something that I'm really excited about. In fact, I'm going to be on your podcast. And so I'm really excited about that. I don't know that I'm going to have much value to share, but I will love the conversation.
Yeah.
But welcome to this. I mean, we're all about gratitude and sharing anything that can help people live a better, more meaningful life. And I believe that you've shown to me that you've been working on that for a long time.
Thanks for that, Randy.
So
thank you.
In our few conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that people get to share and listen to this. So to start, could you tell us, where did ReFind resilience come from?
Oh, I love that question. About almost 5, well, if I go back even further, about 7 years ago, I was going through something really difficult in my personal life and within my marriage. And I just had this amazing village of women that came into my purview, over the past 7 years, really. And about 4 years ago, I found myself coming off of the welfare system as a single mom. And I thought, wow, if I can get myself back to a position of safety and security, I'd really like to give back to those women who supported me during a time where I was not present to support them. And how could I do that? And I thought I could create a podcast and we could talk about those resilient moments that we encountered throughout our day, and I could give them a voice to tell their story about some of those moments that they experienced where I wasn't necessarily present for them, but they were making these pivotal changes in their life at the same time that they were offering support to me. And it just kind of expanded this year. I happened to meet Derek Miner with Build and Bless and Lemonade Stand Marketing, and was sharing this dream with him of having this podcast. And because Derek is who he is, he reached out to me and said, hey, we want to make that dream happen for you, and we'd like to sponsor your podcast. And so I've just been in pre-recording, and it will launch in January. But I've been able to expand the guest and the reason for the podcast into so many other people that I've been able to meet over the past few years. And of course, bringing some of those key pivotal friends, if you will, in to share their moments of resilience in their life. So it's been a real joy.
Okay, well, I'm so excited for you to start publishing these. I've seen little snippets or clips or photos of people that you're interviewing and having on that.
Yeah.
And so if among that group, I'm honored that I could be part of one of those.
Goodness.
And I love the word resilience.
Yeah.
And so I want to dig a little deeper into that of why resilience, what that means to you. How did you find resilience? And how do you help somebody ReFind their resilience? Hey there, everyone. Did you know that beyond hosting the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, I am also an estate planning attorney, and I love gratitude, and my law firm is proud to sponsor this video. Since 2010, in my law practice, I have designed and delivered customized peace of mind with sophisticated estate planning made easy. So whether you need foundational estate planning, including revocable trusts, wills, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives, which is what most people need, or you might need advanced strategies such as irrevocable trust for asset protection or advanced estate tax planning, I am here to guide you every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind is my peace of mind. You can visit randallsparks.com and I can get started helping you plan for the future today. Now back to our podcast.
Yeah, well, I'll tackle the ReFind first because this just resonates with me, the term ReFind, and it's ReFind, refinding it, because no experience that you go through is linear. It's constantly changing, and the resilience tactics that you have to tap into are different every single time you go through an experience. And so for me, that was absolutely true. I had to refind how I was going to get through XYZ situation. And it was different every time, and it remains different every time. And so I think speaking to the larger picture of resiliency, I think oftentimes we see somebody on stage and we think, oh my gosh, their story, you hear Olympic athletes talk about, or incredible people that have been through severe trauma, and they're on stage talking about this incredible experience, and you think, wow, they've made it.
Mm-hmm.
But they go back home and they try to remain resilient every single day. So for me, it just represents the fact that we're never achieving resilience. It is an ongoing effort every single time that we encounter something in life. And so I really loved that. It really resonated for me. And I think you asked me, Randy, how do I define resilience? And I think the definition changes every single time too. I've had real moments where I didn't believe that I was going to make it through that moment. I think we can all relate to some place in our life where we just didn't know if we were going to be able to get up off the ground. If we were going to be able to be employed again, if we were going to make it through losing our family member, if we were going to make it through, a health issue, or even just the smaller things in life of like maybe a toxic relationship with somebody. And these things that can freeze us in fear. And for me, resilience is the fight against fear. It is literally looking fear in the face and saying, I see you, but I'm going to win every day. And I think we do that, maybe not in such a direct manner, but I think we as humans, our spirits, we want to be resilient. It is the essence of who we are, and that divine energy. It wants to get up off the ground. It wants to succeed. It wants to be, an incredible force of nature in the world, and it wants to live. If I can, I know this is a really long answer, but, I think sometimes about my circumstances within my divorce and my marriage and other friends that I know that have been through challenging things. And I don't want to minimize anybody's experience ever, but I put myself next to somebody who had a Holocaust experience, or somebody who has been in deep, tremendous abuse and neglect. And I think the soul has pushed these individuals forward. They had a choice. They could live or they could die. They could take themselves out of the world or they could keep going. And they made a conscious choice to keep going. And I think it's an innate choice that your human soul wants you to rise above. And so the driving force of divinity is so powerful, and we don't even realize it. Every day you get out of bed, there's a force there that says, get up. Go have your day, even if it sucks, like go have your day, And so for me, I think, yeah, I really draw on that in those low moments. I really draw on the fact that, no, I know that tomorrow my soul wants me to make it to tomorrow. Get up, go,
Yeah, and I appreciate the long answer, and I'm going to even ask more so it gets longer, because
Okay.
I love this, because I hear the bumper sticker versions of resilience, and what is it? It's when you fall down, it's getting back up again.
Yeah.
That's resilience, and I'm like, that is beautiful when you can say it in a couple words.
Yeah.
But what you said, I know, and I can see it in all of your energy and
Mm.
in everything about you, that you've got a smile when you're telling me this,
Mm.
and you've got all the pain and experience behind learning what resilience means to you. Like, it's clear to me.
Hmm.
And so I like to hear the platitudes of things that are like, "Oh, yeah, there's my,
Yeah.
go-to statement." I was like, "Well, what's it like in real life?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I actually experience that?" And so I'd like to hear more. I mean, when I listen to somebody that inspires me, they inspire me because I know they've done the work.
Mm.
They're not just saying something pretty,
Yeah.
and I can feel and identify with them. And so you seem to me like you're going to connect with a lot of people
Mm.
because these people know and feel that you've been there.
Mm.
And so I'd like to hear, like, what's it like actually being in that moment
Mm.
when maybe there's no belief in how you pull through?
Well, and that's the question, right? I
Mhm.
think we all end up asking ourselves, how am I gonna do this? I find myself sometimes, Randy, saying to God, I believe that you see the plan for me, but wow, this is hard with no vision. I don't have your vision right now. I can't see it right now. So, how am I going to get up in this moment, exercising that blind faith, if you will, in that moment to tap into something that is greater, bigger than I am? I will reference this moment because it was so pivotal for me. And we have those milestone moments, right? That you can look back and say, this moment really was where things changed, or for the better or the worse, right? And I found myself in a moment where I asked we were in dire financial straits in my marriage at this particular time. And I asked my spouse, we're a few $100s away from hitting our financial floor. Are you going back to work? And he had the master's degree in accounting, and I freelance contracted and was a full-time mom. So I was the juxtaposition of I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be helpful more than I already am doing. And I asked him, I said, are you planning on going back to work? And he said, no, you'll figure out something. And Randy, I take this scripture about going in your closet to pray very seriously. I think most moms know that feeling of like your closet is the sanctuary, you know. And I went into my closet and I knelt down, and that was the moment that I really wrestled with God, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to allow my faith to be stronger than my fear in this moment, and I'm going to give this companion that I've had for all these years to you. And I need you to tap into me right now. I need your energy. I need your strength. I don't have it. And I'm going to have to do something extraordinarily hard that I never saw myself doing. And that is, I've got to go back to work somehow. And I've got to feed these kids. And I've got to take care of this family. And I have to be the champion and the hero right now." And for about 2.5 hours, just sobbed on the floor, crying. I was so terrified of that moment. It was the deepest fear that I had, was to be the sole provider of the children that I brought into the world. And it came true. So we can say whatever we want to about manifesting fears, right? But in that moment, it came true for me. And so I really had to face the most intense fear for me. And I'm sure if I was in therapy, we could go down that road about figuring out why that was there, but it was there, you know? And and so for me, I could not have done it without God. I don't know how people find resilience without some spiritual connection to something higher than you are. We are weak. We are weak. I don't care what anybody tells us. Like, the soul is strong, but the body and the mind, we're weak. We cannot exist without that divine energy pumping through us every single day. And when we don't attend to it and we don't ask for it and we don't lean into it, we really are left to figure it out on our own. And we're incredibly smart beings, and we can use our critical thinking skills to figure things out, and we're given that gift. But there's an extra layer there that is that bridge between humanity and divinity that neither of us can fill it without the other. And so for me to be able to pick myself up in that moment, I had to ask for God to lean down. Please give me your hand and lift me. I'm not strong enough to get up right now and do this. I'm so scared. And I had to look at myself in the mirror every day, and I adopted Wonder Woman as my alter ego. I needed something, right? Something else that I could tap into, that I could see and feel, and was a tangible force of nature. And I was like, I love Wonder Woman. I've always loved Wonder Woman. I'll be Wonder Woman. And every day I looked in the mirror every day and I said, let's go, Wonder Woman. Let's go. You got this, right? Whether you believe it or not in that moment, saying it makes it more real, right? And over time, you say it enough and then you believe it, right? Our words have power and meaning. And I know, Randy, in the moments that I say, I don't have enough, I can't do it, I'm not able to do it, I'm so sad, I'm so, right? In those moments, that is also real. And so I think it really becomes that crossroads of choosing which voice you're going to listen to. And if you're always looking toward the divine, the voice is always going to be, get up.
Mm.
You know, I laugh at myself. I say, I don't have guardian angels. I have caseworkers, you know? Like, I have a big black woman. Her name is Lakeisha. She's my caseworker. And she's like, girl, you better get up off your knees, you know? Like, let's go. You don't have time for this. And so I have lots of sources, lots of visuals that I tap into when I need that extra layer of resilience. And it is an ongoing everyday thing for me.
There is so much beauty and power in that story. And this is why, everybody listening, this is why you know that what's underneath what she's saying and doing now matters, because you've been there.
Yeah.
And something I noticed in our very first conversation, and even now, when you describe your, like, these darkest moments, you still smile. And you find a way to smile through this. And so I want to ask,
Yeah.
how do you find the ability to smile through that? I had somebody, you kept talking about, how can we do this? There's no way, we're weak, and there's this gap between our physical body and our mind and our souls, our spirits, our divinity. And that's what has the power and strength. I talked to someone yesterday named Natalie Ledwell, and she's amazing. And we'll have to talk about her.
Yes.
There's a whole other thing about her and the work she's done. But she said to me, gratitude is the gateway to the divine. And so my question for you is, looking back at this experience that was this specific pivotal moment, as you look back to it, how does that connect with you, that gratitude, looking back towards this experience that was so hard and painful?
Yeah. Gosh, Randy, you know, I think that is absolutely true. I mean, anybody that is a gratitude expert, if you will say that. It's the gateway, right, to joy and resilience. I don't think you can have resilience without gratitude. I don't know which one comes first, but I think they are synonymous. For me, I really harnessed the fact that I had been given some natural qualities, some natural characteristics, if you will, that made it easy for me to find a place to operate professionally in. After not going to school for it, not really studying it, I just kind of found my way into PR and took on small jobs along the way as I figured it out until this moment. And then I had to lean in fully to that scope of like little stepping stones along the way to build something bigger so that I could put a resume together and I could go find this work that I needed to have. And I was so deeply grateful looking back that I didn't know those stepping stones were there for that reason, but they absolutely were there to pave a way for me to be self-sustaining. And that the moment of gratitude, number one, that God saw fit to provide the opportunity for me, and number two, that I took advantage of the opportunity to lean into it. And I think sometimes we can say we're grateful. We want to give, and this is going to maybe sound off, but we want to be grateful for things that we are not responsible for creating. And I think sometimes it's okay to be grateful for the things that you created too, in connection with God, right? Like together you co-created something, because he couldn't do the work if you weren't willing to lean into it. And so I was also very grateful for me that I leaned in, that I didn't just walk away from that experience, because it provided an opportunity for me later to be sustaining. So for me, gratitude has been pivotal all along the way. Not just in that regard, but wow, I'm grateful that I'll share this experience with you because I know we talked about it. When we are, I think, actively engaged in gratitude, actually like recognizing it on a daily basis in random moments, right? We often want to say gratitude is like, oh, we'll sit down, we'll put it in our journal, we'll say a prayer, we'll give a dedicated space to be grateful for those things. And I think that's beautiful, and it's a gorgeous practice. But it's also like, it's just driving down the road, and all of a sudden you can go, wow, I'm so grateful that happened, right? You're in the shower by yourself and nobody else is around, and you can think, and you're like washing your hair thinking, oh, wow, this thing that happened today, I'm so grateful for that, right? I mean, you can be grateful. That's the most beautiful thing about gratitude. You can be grateful all the time, anytime, you know? And I think being open to seeing the gifts that come into your space and recognizing them right when they happen, those are the things that keep you grateful in the moments that you're not ever sure if you're going to get up off the floor, right? Because the practice of doing that on a regular basis aligns with your ability to overcome the next thing that you're dealing with on a regular basis. So for me, joy, because you asked, where's that smile come from? For me, Randy, the smile is in the fact that I did it. I wasn't smiling when it was happening, but the smile comes now because I look back and I see the co-creation. I see the great joy and the huge lessons that I learned in those moments. And and moving forward, I derive great joy from that experience. And so it's such a weird thing, right? To be joyful because of the pain. We hear that all the time, and I don't think we take it really seriously, and we don't really sit in it. But when I was on welfare, Randy, thinking, how am I going to provide for my family on $1,700, a family of 5 people? It wasn't even like half my rent at the time where we were living. There was no joy. There was no smiling. There was gratitude, but it came with a lot of tears, you know? And so I do think that the joy comes after. And what an incredible thing. I'm jealous so much of people that can really truly be joyful in the moments of deep heartache and pain. That is a gift that I have not yet honed, and my joy always comes after.
And I'm with you where I don't feel the joy in the pain. I feel pain.
Yeah.
I feel the sadness. I feel the sorrow, the low frequency emotion, the challenge. And I believe also that it's a skill and a choice to afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, during is to have that courage and faith that you described, where you said, I need to harness something that's outside of me, that's beyond that. And that's your connection to the divine,
Right.
to say something that can pull you through this. But it was your courage. I put faith and courage, like to me, they're not even separate from each other. They are intertwined or synonymous with each other. I keep believing that more and more and more.
Yeah.
The word faith is just all out courage, like into battle, just running through something, that it is the most courageous thing to exercise that faith, to go through the other side of fear. And for you to harness that. But for me, I agree with you. And I think so many as well, that it's afterwards looking back. And you said maybe it's a little bit strange to say that it's hard. It's easy to be grateful for, some people call it the given gifts, that are outside of ourselves. It's like, well, I'm so grateful that these things exist outside of my control. But to find gratitude for the things that I did or have done or contributed to, that you with the divine have created something and have overcome something. I actually think that that's important, and then that's a crucial part of our life. I've been taught this, and I've talked about it a lot, and I go through this exercise of pausing and actually taking the time to either a mental exercise or actually physically writing a letter of gratitude to my younger self. But think for a minute, you're describing that right now. You're expressing gratitude for your younger self, for the sacrifices and accomplishments and the overcoming to get you to what and who you are now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's key. That's not strange. That's crucial
Yeah.
in our development. And think of the grace that we give to ourselves.
Ooh, let's just stay right on
Yeah.
that word. I love that word, grace. I think growing up LDS, grace is not something that our culture has embraced. I think more and more we're starting to recognize the value of talking about grace. But in Christianity as a whole, grace is a significant part. It is the part of the Christian faith that people lean into. And I think it's hard to understand. Grace can be hard to understand. I listened to this preacher. His name is T.D. Jakes, big preacher in Texas, amazing person. I love him. And, when you need that, like John the Baptist cry from the wild voice, like I needed that. I went for the big voices, and I do still. I always look for those big voices when I need to be uplifted. Anyway, but I was listening to him, and he said, when your health is good, when your dog is good, when your money's good and your career is good, your cars are good, kids are good, everything is just good. You wake up one day and everything just feels right, and you have a smile on your face and life is good. Welcome to your grace period. Like, God allows you the gift of being without challenge for a short period of time because he knows the challenges are coming, and he wants you to look back and remember the moments that he gifted you, that beautiful time for you just to enjoy life. And I've thought about that so much. And I think, how then do I receive the gift of grace when things are good? And how quickly I forget the gift of grace when things are not good, right? And how can I give myself grace? How do I give myself that gift of just saying, and we're talking maybe about two different kinds of grace, if you will, like the peaceful period of the gift of peace in that moment, but then also the grace to say, I'm going to make mistakes and I'm human. And how do I give myself the same exact gift that I would give to my children or to my friends or to my family if they were going through something and the connection wasn't there and they were struggling and they were being hard on themselves and they wanted to beat themselves up, and I would give them all the grace in the world. But why can I not do that for myself? And how challenging it is to tap into the divine channel in that way, to allow yourself to be in a space where you make mistakes and you don't have it all together and you're not employed and you can't pay your bills and you can't take care of everybody in your world the way that you want to. How do you really give yourself that grace? And maybe that's a little bit of a perfectionist issue, right? High standards, and I think cause a lot of disappointment sometimes.
Well, how
But
how do you do that?
but that's the question. I mean, that is the question that I ask myself all the time, Randy, is how do I do that? Right? I don't think I've honed that yet. I think I expect big things from myself. And so it makes it hard in those moments to say, hey, it's okay. You don't have all the answers. And guess what, Carrie? That bridge that you need to connect between you and God, you're going to have to tap into it a little bit harder right now to access that. And so and maybe that's alongside resilience as well, is that it's an ongoing journey, to figure out how grace factors into resilience. I am a body in motion, go, solve, do, right? And so just stand back and try to allow that peace and that stillness to come into my life is hard.
Do you struggle with, because I would say as an outsider, and I would imagine that your friends and people around you in your circle
Mhm.
would look at you and say, how could you wonder
Yeah.
if you have grace and gratitude and resilience, right? Somebody from the outside would look at
Yeah.
that and say, it is so obvious you are the example
Mm.
to me, to others,
Mm.
to demonstrate that. And for for me to say, I want that, right? Um,
Oh.
but I will admit, I don't want the pain that it took to get it.
Yes. Well,
So
I don't
let me
want it
be
for you
honest.
either. But I think that's a beautiful thing. I think the beautiful thing, Randy, is some people, you always have that kid that has to learn on his own or her own. Like, they don't want to hear the answers. They don't want to, they have to go through it themselves. And then you have those other kids that can be that observant person and say,
Mm.
that didn't work out so well for
Yeah.
my brother. Like, I think I'm going to take a different path, And I think it's no different for us as adults either. I think we are who we are, and some challenges, some people don't need to go through to learn those lessons. I think for me, I don't know that I needed to have gone through what I've gone through, but I will certainly say that it has seasoned me. I mean, I just feel like I don't know that there's another way that I could learn the art of resiliency if I had not had to go through this. But you've had your own journey. I mean, we've all had our own journeys in some capacity, right? For the lessons that we needed to learn. I really feel like for me, Randy, this lesson for me opened my eyes to a couple of different things. And I feel very passionate about this reason behind why I had to go through some of these experiences and why I'm still going through some of these experiences, right? Um, when I was on welfare, I really learned how our welfare system operates. I went from a very affluent marriage to literally being on welfare. And so I went from talking about the welfare system to living the welfare system. And that's a very different journey than if you just grow up in welfare culture, and there is a welfare culture. I was like dropped into that space, and it was shocking for me. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot. My dad was in the military. I think at the height of his career, he made maybe $45,000 for a family of 6 people. We did the whole like thrift store, Salvation Army shopping for senior pictures. I mean, we made it work, and that's how I grew up. So I didn't grow up and get married expecting that we would have this lavish life. It was a huge gift to me to be able to enjoy some of that for a short amount of time and raise my kids with some of that for a little while. But to be dropped off a cliff so drastically was really eye-opening for me. And what I learned in that period of time was how challenging it is for people to get off of the welfare system. We don't make it easy in our country for people that want to work, that are purpose-driven people initially, that find themselves in these circumstances, to get out of those circumstances. For me, I had to have no more than $2,000 in my bank account when I applied. And I think I shared that story with you when I applied for welfare. And that was, I'll come back to that. But I couldn't have more than $2,000, and I couldn't make more than what I was being given from the government, which was about, after all was said and done, about $2,100 a month. So when you think about going out and finding full-time work after not being in the workforce for 16, 17 years and really not having a corporate resume, you can't make more or else you lose what you have. And what you have is safe and secure, right? And when you're in fight or flight, you want to hang on to that safe and secure for as long as you can because
Yeah, it's natural.
the other side of that is nothing,
Mhm.
right? So when you make $2,100 as an employed person, well, now you've just lost the $2,100 that you were making from welfare. There's no bridge. There's no safe haven that says, let's incrementally get you off of this to a better space. It's just you're either dropped off or you're $100 over. Congratulations, you're employed, right?
Mhm.
And now you've just replaced the $2,100 that you lost, which wasn't enough to begin with.
Mhm.
So for me, this experience of being in this space really showed me, number one, how many other women are in my position across the country that are intelligent women that want to work, that have beautiful skills, that find themselves in circumstances where they have been left to be the primary income earner for their family with no education and no resources and no knowledge really of how to do that. And we have a plethora of resources across our country, but they're very hard to find and they're very hard to navigate. And when you are operating in fight or flight, you don't want to sift through 1,000 Google searches to find how you can write a resume or find a job or how do you apply for welfare. So anyway, I share this with you because what this did was motivate me to create a program that basically will help other women in like me um, through an 8-week course. And I'm working with one of the largest universities in the state of Utah to create this course and certify it. So it's teaching things over 8 weeks like Canva and, the full Google suite and HubSpot and fluid skills that women can take with them wherever they go that will be helpful in gray collar situations. And then hopefully working with employers that want to solve this socioeconomic crisis, which cost anywhere between $8 and $18 million a month in the state of Utah, welfare for a very small population of divorced women with children on welfare. Let's solve the crisis together and let this program called InPowered, let this be the placement agency for that to happen. And there's a lot of nuances within that space that we could talk about, but this really dire part of my experience gave me fire, if you will, to solve this problem for other people. And is there a better balm for pain than service?
Mm.
Is there a better balm than seeing how you can actually fix the problem for thousands of other people that might be going through that? And you talk about courageous, Randy, I am a huge advocate for things I believe in. I will fight for you till I die. I will, because if I believe it and I feel it and I have felt it with you, I'm on board. Like, let's go, right? And I always say to people, don't wait for somebody else to solve the problem. Fix it, even if you don't have it all together. I don't have it all together. I'm still trying to find work. I'm still trying to pay my bills. I'm still worried about how I'm going to get my gas money to go from point A to point B. Like, we are all struggling in some capacity, but it doesn't mean that you can't be the one to solve the problem for other people alongside them. Be the advocate, be the voice, do something amazing with what you've been given. And if it doesn't come to you right away, let the experience pass and remember it, right? And find the joy. That brings me great joy.
Mm.
You ask me, how do you smile through that? It brings me great joy because I know that I'm actually going to do something with that. That I'm not just going to sit in that space and say, well, this thing happened to me and now it's who I am. No, I get to say who I am.
That's
Right?
powerful. I fall into that a lot where I realized something. This was actually in a meditation
Mm.
that I was doing once where I had this kind of conversation with my own fear. And I realized that I got into a space where I was feeling remembering and feeling a certain type of pain and fear and sadness. And it was important and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And, then there was the point where it was it's time to let this go, to process it and let it go, to move on. And my response was, I don't want to let it go because I want to stay in the comfort of my sadness because it's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm comfortable here. I know it. I understand it. This is what I'm familiar with. And this was all in in like a dream meditation kind of a place. But I learned from that. I'm like, oh, look at how I responded to that. And I realized it revealed to myself that I find that comfort in that familiarity, which might keep me from moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so the courage and bravery is the stepping forward, stepping across that threshold, moving through the fear, having that faith to do something.
Yeah.
To move myself on. And so your invitation and I'm hearing this whole empowered program where you're providing tools in a program to give people fluid skills that they can take forward and get out of this somewhat broken system.
Mm-hmm.
I just hear a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Say, hey guys, you know what? There's a way. You can do this.
Yeah.
There's hope. How would people, even when you say it's difficult for someone to sift through all the challenges out there of getting through any challenge like this, how will they know about this program?
That's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked. um, I am actually building a community, so a hub that will bring a, hopefully at one point all of the resources that are available to women. And it's not just women that find themselves in welfare. My program specifically will help women that are in financial hardship, that need to get off of welfare quickly into a space where their kids can have some health insurance, they can be taken care of a little better, they can have some stability. But the community itself will have, I mean, any iteration of being a single mom, single moms, widowed moms, moms in financial hardships, moms that just want to go back to work, I mean, bringing all of those resources together. Randy, I just want to share this with you. I have met There's this thing, and we talked about it actually before, and it goes right along with this community, but there is this powerful thing that's happening within the state of Utah. And I don't think it's limited to Utah, but because we're here, I see it here, right? But I think that there is this swell of women, young women to older women, who are just literally saying, I'm done waiting for someone to give me permission to to step into who I am and uplift and be and do and fulfill, and they're coming together in such beautiful, unique ways. And we're not the angry, mob that's um parading on DC that we want like rights. It's not that vibe, right? This is a very genuine, authentic vibe that just says, we're here. Oh my gosh, we're here. Look what we can do. And we've always
Mm.
known that we can do this, but now we're going to do it together, right? We're not in a silo. And I have met the most incredible women um, through this conversations around InPowered, and to see how women that have been through similar circumstances, and I guess that's a beautiful thing about hope too, is that when you do have a community of people that have been where you are, you do have hope together, right? You can have stronger, more deep hope that if you can't solve it, they can solve it.
Mhm.
Together we're going to solve all the things. And so I want to just acknowledge the women in my life that I've been talking to, and it's moms, it's women like, tech moms like Trina Limbert and Katie Bunnell from the Live Your Dream Foundation, and Susan Madsen, who's doing this great work, and bringing women together under the Boulder Way Forward title, and research, that can help support women's issues and children's issues in the state. And I would have never known that these women even existed if I had not gone through that experience, because I wouldn't be looking for them.
Mm.
I wouldn't be trying to align myself with a community of women that I could build with. Truthfully, Randy, I'd probably just still be doing freelance contracting in my home and enjoying my kids and moving on with my life. This grovelly growth, oh, it's so like raw and like it's gravelly, it's not, and it's beautiful. And it's such a pain in my butt. Like, but I love it. I love it because it's enabled me to not just sit by the sidelines for other women that I never knew were even struggling, you know? And so being aligned with these women and building this community where all women are invited to find all the resources that you could ever imagine, this brings me great hope and great joy. So I don't know if I answered your question because I got in my head, but
This is exactly what we needed to hear. It's perfect. And so
Um,
I'm so grateful for this conversation, for
mm.
for InPowered, for what you're building, this grovelly struggle that you're dealing with. And isn't it amazing that, well, and I will say that once you enter the conversation, then look who enters it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because I am so grateful for the people that have come into my
Mm.
purview, my circle, that I'm like, how in the world would I ever have come across you or so many other people that I've had on the podcast or elsewhere that I've become close to? That
Yeah.
it's because I've gone through this struggle and I've entered this new conversation.
Mhm.
and then that's expanded, and it attracts people who are in that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful. That's what excites me and gives me hope,
Yeah.
is because all of a sudden I see, wow, the world and possibility and goodness and high frequency, it's all
Mm.
so much bigger and greater and more powerful than I ever knew.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I move, the bigger it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, imagine what you felt like 5, 10 years ago, and look where you are now.
Oh, yeah.
And now just go on this exercise of, well, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
what will 5 years from now look
Yeah.
like?
I love that you just said that. I was thinking about that actually on the way over here. Just taking stock, again, like going back to recognizing like your role in what has become for you, and just sitting there and thinking, wow, I never would have imagined 10 years ago that I would be driving to your house in my old neighborhood, I might add, to have this conversation with you. I just could never, how could I ever see that, And I really appreciate that because there's deep gratitude in that, in the reflection. There is so much gratitude in the reflection and so much hope. Hope is a powerful word.
Um, I love this word and this
Mm,
topic,
yeah.
and I'd like to hear you talk about it.
Mm.
Maybe I'll enter into it where there's a few things that I keep repeating on the podcast that people might be getting tired of, or maybe you'll remember it and then tell me where I'm right or wrong. Um, but I have this ongoing conversation about the the battle between hope and expectation.
Mm,
And one is destructive when one is constructive.
mhm,
But I'd like to hear why hope matters to you,
mm.
and why it's significant and what it means.
Well, I think for you, courage and faith are synonymous, and I think hope fits right in there with it. You can't be courageous without believing that there's something that you're fighting for, right? You have to really believe that to be courageous. Like, I'm doing something, I believe in something, I'm taking my faith to another level, right? And so I think hope is, I mentioned earlier, Rent. I've thought a lot about this word. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I have thought a lot about this word because it's kind of one of those ethereal words that you can't really touch, you know? And when I think about, you think about people that have been in great, like Holocaust victims, like people that have come out of really life threatening situations, and you think, how did you make it through that? And I know I mentioned like that human spirit, the essence of the human spirit is divinity, and it cannot exist without hope. I think it's built into our DNA to hope. Why do we wake up every day? Because we hope that today is going to be a better day, right? Or that something amazing is going to happen today. We hope. It's this thing that like we're constantly living in, but it's out of reach. And I think the adventure of that is so exciting to think about. I am living in hope. What does that even mean? It just means that every day I'm waking up with courage and I'm waking up with faith and I'm waking up and I'm being a resilient soul, because I cannot be resilient if I don't have that, right? If I don't have the innate desire. And I think ultimately, that's a word that I come back to frequently when I think about hope is desire. Because is your hope based on your desire? Is it synonymous with the desire that you want to see in the world? I'm hoping and I desire for, right? And I think they're very closely related, but I also think something that I've learned and that has come into my conversation frequently lately is this idea that hope does not mean you're not putting hope in the result of something. You're putting hope that no matter what happens, you get through it. Right. And I think to your point, when we talk about expectations and we talk about hope, I think when we put our energies into the result that we're trying to get instead of what we are actually going through to get there, we can lose hope. We can be extremely discouraged. Um, and so I think the hope is the adventure of it. I don't think it's the result.
That's beautiful. I love that so much. I love that so much.
Oh,
So hope is the adventure. And
yeah.
how cool does that make it? Now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's adventure and courage, and it's that
Yeah.
romantic idea
That's
of
right.
like the days of adventure. and
Yeah.
and there's so many people who are talking and encouraging people, especially men, people like
Mhm.
Dr. Jordan Peterson talk
Yeah.
about that a lot is,
Yeah.
accept the call to the adventure of your life,
Yeah.
and that's where life begins to, pick yourself up and live
Mm.
and make those important sacrifices and
Mhm.
live and show up with healthy embodied masculinity and be there for your yourself, your kids, your family, and be all that represents,
Yeah.
and but adventure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hope for hope and adventure. I've never
Yeah.
put those two together, and now I'm never gonna stop putting them together.
I've really been thinking a lot
Yeah.
about that. So I'm really glad you asked because I struggle with that too. Why when you work so hard for a result and the result doesn't come,
Mhm.
it's so easy to become discouraged. So you can't
Yeah.
put your faith there.
Yeah, and that's where I think expectation comes in, is
Yeah.
because and again, I've
Yeah.
repeated this again, but the difference between hope and expectation in some way,
Mhm.
and my short
Mhm.
answer is if I expect something and it occurs, my best case scenario is satisfaction.
Mm.
But when I hope
Yeah.
and something happens,
Yeah.
I am over the moon,
Yeah. Yeah, the
right?
adventure gets bigger,
The
right?
adventure
Now you want
expands.
to do even more. You want to
Yeah.
see even
And
more.
so it expands, it creates, it
Yeah.
transcends, where expectation is is the recipe for disappointment
Yeah.
and dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
and at best satisfaction.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, well, embrace the adventure of hope, people.
Yeah.
And find resilience. And
Yeah.
I don't know anywhere better than to end on that, but I am so happy that we got to have this
Mhm.
conversation today, and it's going to be the first of many. And we will put in the comments here how people can find your podcast and learn about
Yes.
Empowered and anything else, because
Okay.
you are helping and inspiring so many people.
Mm.
I'm one of them. So thank you so much for coming
Oh,
today.
thank you, Randy. And also likewise, I appreciate Sparks of Gratitude. I love that the title and I love your focus and it's been such a joy just to like know you for such a short amount of time. And I do believe it's the beginning of our adventure. So as we move forward as co-creators in the world, and I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, thank you for listening. We will see you next time.